Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes!
This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
Now, Ross Kaminsky.
Come on, man.
On Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
All right, good morning. Happy Wednesday. The band is back together. Producer Shannon back in town for a much-deserved vacation out to Nebraska and Lake McConaughey, where we did the listener eclipse thing, however many decades ago that was. Producer Shannon, I know you're shy, but do you want to say anything about what you just told me about how like COVID is impacting things even still in vacation places and stuff?
Producer Shannon.
Yes?
At least we saw a lot of cows. We like that part of Nebraska. Oh, Galala, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains. And at Lake McConaughey, they are enforcing kind of a limited area and limited number of reservations for camping on the beach. Once upon a time, it used to be sort of a free-for-all. You just pull down onto the beach, you pay. Once upon a time, it was $4 a day. Now it's $25. And they've limited the number of people, they say, because of staffing shortages within the Parks and Rec business.
Is that the beach that you would camp on? Is that public land or private land?
It's public.
It's public.
It is all state park.
Okay. So when you and I were there by Lake McConaughey, that beachfront in front of where we stayed, that's public land too? Ish?
More or less. I think that there is some use that would have applied to the North Shore Lodge where we stayed because they launch boats and do other business through that area.
Mm-hmm.
And then where I ended up staying this time, a little further up at Admiral's Cove, they also kind of maintain the beach in front of them, and there were no campers there. It was only day camping in that area.
All right, so COVID impacting things, and I'm going to talk about COVID a little more in a minute. I do want to note, since producer Shannon put it as the title or subtitle or something of the live YouTube we've got going on right now. If you go to youtube.com and type in Ross Kaminsky, you'll see me, although you won't be able to tell that I'm wearing shorts today, which I am. I don't know why. But apparently it's National Hot Dog Day, according... That was a hot dog who's very annoyed by lying outside in these 95-degree temperatures we're having every day. But that was not, I think, what if National Hot Dog Day, what if they actually meant dogs that were, getting a little too much sun and, panting and overheating a bit? That would be, it does not sound like Reuben. So, I'm a big fan of hot dogs, although I don't eat them as often as I eat burgers. My wife says, I'm not even sure I should say this on the radio. I'll try to say this in the politest possible way. My wife says that the more a food looks like poo, the more I like it. And so I love chili dogs, for example. Chili cheese dogs. Chili burgers are good too. Hot fudge sundaes, things like that. But I am down with a good chili dog. Now, I would like to let you all know that I have not forgotten at all about the thing we did with burgers a few weeks back. And I said I was going to arrange a get-together with listeners for burgers and pick a place. And I'm going to give you just a small update on that. So I don't actually have the name in front of me. You'll probably all be yelling at your radio when I say what I'm about to say. But the answer that I got most from listeners about the best burger in the larger Denver area was at a bar in Sedalia. Do you know what they're talking about, Shannon? Do you remember the name off the top of your head?
I could have sworn Bud's was in the title.
Oh, it could be. All right, so, but I'm thinking that it would be very hard to get a lot of people who are working in Denver or north of Denver down to Sedalia for a burger. It's called Bud's?
Bud's Cafe and Bar.
Yeah. So I think it'll be hard to get people to Sedalia on a work day. So what I'm thinking we'll do, and we'll do it pretty soon, probably in August, is we'll arrange a Saturday where we could meet down there at Bud's in Sedalia, and I'll be in contact with them just to make sure everything would be okay. I mean, I have no idea when we do these little, morning show family get-togethers, whether we'll have 4 people or 14 or 40. I have no idea. So anyway, I promise you I haven't forgotten, and we are going to do it. And I may do a separate thing on a weekday lunch with some burger place that's more in town-ish. Although I am tempted, given that it is National Hot Dog Day, to maybe make the other one about the best hot dog. So what I would like to request that you do me a favor and send me an email or a text. Actually, email. Don't do text because the texts get lost after a while. Send me an email at ross@khow.com with your idea of who in the Denver metro area makes the best hot dog. Okay, ross@khow.com. And maybe we'll put together a listener thing to go do that on a weekday and then do the burger thing on a weekend. That could be fun, right? Yeah, do that. Please send me an email at ross@khow.com. Tell me who in the Denver metro area makes the best hot dog, and we'll pick something. Yeah, why not? Why not? I don't think... producer Shannon's on the phone with somebody. I was going to tell him a story, but I'll have to do that another time. I learned yesterday something that I should have learned weeks ago, but I'm going to share it with you now because it's something you need to know. And that is that the lunatic Democrats who are just running rampant, wrecking Colorado, passed a bill that had come across my radar at some point during the legislative session, and I didn't pay that much attention to it. And I have to say, I didn't pay that much attention to it because I didn't think it would pass. And it did pass. And this bill is House Bill 1311. And I want to make sure you know of a couple of key things that it does. And I will note that what I'm going to mention here applies to upper income workers or upper income earners. It applies to people primarily who make more money than I do, but still pisses me off a lot. So one of the things that this does is if you make more than $400,000 a year, you will face a new limit on the deductions that you can take against your state income taxes. I'm going to go to CPR.org for this. Itemized deductions, which allow people to lower their taxes by subtracting certain expenses like mortgage interest and charitable donations from taxable income. Under the new law, those wealthier households can't subtract more than $60,000 from their taxable income. And I realize nobody wants to feel sorry for someone making over $400,000 a year, but my brain doesn't work that way, in part because I aspire to make more than $400,000 a year, and in part, to be frank, because in the past, I have made more than $400,000 a year, not in this job, but when I was a financial markets trader in Chicago, I was good at it, and I made a decent living. And I had a few years, not a lot, but a few that were more than $400,000 a year. And the thing is, and we kind of talked about this yesterday on a whole different scale with Jeff Bezos. You know, that guy made however many millions of dollars just in the 10 and a half minutes that he was flying, right? It's a whole different level, and I don't begrudge him at all. You know, after his flight, when he got off of that New Shepard spaceship, he said, "Thank you to every Amazon customer, like you helped pay for this." And some people got mad at him for that, but I didn't. It's right. Every Amazon customer helped pay for it. And every Amazon customer who indirectly, well, almost directly, actually, gave him a penny or a nickel or a dime or a dollar based on whatever Amazon's profit was in the purchase. Probably everybody who bought stuff from Amazon chose Amazon for a reason. It was cheaper than the other place, or it was more convenient, or it was something, whatever it was. You know, you didn't buy it from Amazon in order to give Jeff Bezos $1. You gave Jeff Bezos $1 because he made your life better one way or another. And I love that. I love that. And I will reemphasize something that I said yesterday. All these people who say that there should be a wealth tax and that billionaires shouldn't exist, and people like AOC who, if they had their way, they would take Jeff Bezos' $200 billion and just, give $100 to each of 2 billion people or something like that. But remember that if you do all that, if you were to just give $100 to each of 2 billion people, their lives would be slightly better for a short time, but you would not have the concentration of wealth required to accomplish these incredible things like Bezos and Branson and Elon Musk and other people like him achieve. Again, I said it yesterday, it bears repeating. Just because there's the same amount of money in the world doesn't mean the money is doing the same stuff. And some people may think it's worth destroying not just already accumulated wealth, but incentive to create and accumulate wealth in the future in order to give everybody in the world, an extra $50 or something. But remember also, this is the other thing, you can't do that very often. Right? If you were to impose a plan where you're taking Jeff Bezos' money, which probably also mean you're taking Bill Gates' money and everybody like that, and just redistributing it all, and then apply, an 80 or 90% income tax rate, which these people would want to do on income over X million dollars a year, you can pretty much only do that once, because there's almost nobody who would go ahead with the effort that would be required and the risk that's required to build a business like that if the government's going to take 80 or 90% of the gain, but you've got all the risk. And that's why there's so little of this incredible entrepreneurship in other countries, even Western developed countries. Do you think it's an accident that the 3 major efforts at privately funded space flight, Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, and SpaceX, are in America? It's not an accident. Anyway, I digress. Let me get back to what's going on here in Colorado. If you make more than $400,000 a year, you won't be able to subtract more than $60,000 from your taxable income through these deductions. Now, it's quite possible, in fact, it's probable, that upper income earners might have a mortgage where the interest part of their mortgage payment would be $5,000 a month. Doesn't take that much to get there, right? Let's say you're a fairly rich dude and you borrow $1 million for your mortgage. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I think if you borrowed $1 million, the interest part of your payment would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 a month, I think. And so that would mean if you deducted that, $5,000 a month, 12 months at $60,000, right? Then you would be now at your limit of what you could deduct under your state income tax. So if you then gave money to charity, or you were thinking about giving money to charity, you wouldn't be able to deduct that against your state income tax the way you used to be. Now, we can have a whole different discussion at some point about whether tax deductibility is a huge factor in charitable giving, but the data suggests that it is. And of course, they can still deduct it under federal income tax. So a high income earner might be able to, save the equivalent of 30% or something like that on the charitable money, on the charitable contributions, but not, 34.5%. Right? So they don't get that extra 4.5% Colorado state tax deduction. And on the margin, it's going to reduce donations to charities in Colorado, which is part of the reason that I didn't think it would pass. This idea comes up a lot. Yeah, a listener texts to say this would affect some Denver Broncos players. This would probably affect most Denver Broncos players. I don't know what their tax situation is, but on the income side, they would qualify. But usually these things don't pass because there are so many big left-leaning charities that lean on Democratic politicians, who are the only ones who support these ideas, to say, you can't do this, it'll hurt our fundraising, that usually the Democrats don't go ahead with it, but they did. And this change is expected to raise more than $100 million in annual revenue for the state of Colorado, which does not need more money right now. It just needs less and smarter spending. So the new law also eliminates a tax deduction for business owners who make more than $500,000. As an individual or $1 million as a household, they won't be able to take pass-through deductions on their state taxes. And then, check this out. Again, this impacts higher income folks, but you've probably heard of the 529 college savings accounts, right? So these are accounts that you can put money in. The money that you put in is an immediate deduction from your state income tax, not your federal income tax, but it comes off your income for purposes of calculating your state income tax, and then the money is withdrawn tax-free at the end to when it's used on a qualifying education expense. And what qualifies is different in different states, but in Colorado, I think it's still higher education only. In some states, you can use it for private high school and textbooks and tutors and things like that. But Democrats hate parents having that kind of freedom and choice because they want to make sure everything goes through the teachers union. So you don't have that choice in Colorado because of Democrats. Anyway, they are now limiting the amount of money that you can put in 529 plans in each year to $20,000 per eventual beneficiary if you are a single taxpayer, and $30,000 effectively for each of your kids that you're saving money for per household each year. And the Dems' argument is, well, we don't want rich people just dumping lots of money in these accounts. Now, of course, there's a limit to what you'd put in these accounts, because if you don't spend it on a qualified expense and you take it out later, there's a big penalty. So it's not like this could be that easily abused anyway. Because how much is the most you'd put in one of these things? $250,000 or something if you're sending someone to a very expensive college. But they did it. So I just wanted you to know that. And at the same time as they're raising all those taxes, here's a headline that I'll offer without further comment from the Denver Post. While they're doing all these things to raise taxes on the rich, and I quote, Colorado will provide birth control and reproductive care for immigrants without documentation.